This course is designed to provide you with the language skills and knowledge to enable you to get the most out of your visit to Japan. My name is Sachiko Nakagome, your language teacher and cultural guide throughout this introductory course. Now, wherever your destination may be, manners are a must. And in this respect, Japan is no different. So in our very first lesson, we'll be taking a look at a phrase there is no excuse not to bring with you to Japan. In Japanese, thank you is arigato. Arigato. Let's break this down by syllable. Arigato. Now here it is again. Arigato. Now, similar to other languages, there are more casual ways and polite ways to express this phrase. Let's start with, you guessed it, the casual way. In Japanese, thanks is domo or arigato. But remember, arigato is quite often followed by gozaimasu, which makes it very polite. Domo is actually an abbreviated form. Let's take a look at domo. Slowly, it's domo. Do-u-mo. Domo.
Lesson 1.
Now, wherever your destination may be, manners are a must. And in this respect, Japan is no different. So in our very first lesson, we'll be taking a look at a phrase there is no excuse not to bring with you to Japan. Again, I'll stress this over and over. A little bit of the language can go such a long way. In Japanese, thank you is arigato. Arigato. Let's break this down by syllable. Arigato. Now here it is again. Arigato. Now, similar to other languages, there are more casual ways and polite ways to express this phrase. Let's start with, you guessed it, the casual way. In Japanese, thanks is domo or arigato. But remember, arigato is quite often followed by gozaimasu, which makes it very polite. Domo is actually an abbreviated form. Let's take a look at domo. Slowly, it's domo. Do-u-mo. Domo. This is the simplest and shortest way of saying thank you, so there's no excuse for you not to know this. Again, it's domo. Can you repeat that? Domo. Great. It's much safer to stick with arigatou gozaimasu. Or be even more polite. For those very special occasions when someone goes above and beyond the call of being kind, when someone is extremely generous, or for any other time that you're extremely grateful, we have the following phrase. Domo arigatou gozaimasu, which is roughly equivalent to thank you so very much. Oh my. Once again, it's domo arigatou gozaimasu. And if you notice, it's all the phrases we covered put together in one sentence. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Again, it means thank you so much. Oh my. So let's just recap here, going from most polite to most casual. Thank you very much is domo arigatou gozaimasu. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you is arigatou gozaimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. And the shortest, quickest, dirtiest way is domo. Again, domo. There's no excuse for you not to know this. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください, which can also mean good luck in Japanese. Okay, here we go. Thank you. ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。Next question. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございます。どうもありがとうございます。And the quick and dirty way, thanks. どうもどうもどうも
Listen 2.
In today's lesson, we'll go over the term you're welcome. Now, it may seem like a simple phrase, but there are various ways to say it depending on the situation and politeness level. So we'll take a whole lesson on these phrases as well as customs. The most common way of saying you're welcome is どういたしまして。どういたしまして。どういたしまして。This is a polite form that can be used with friends, colleagues, senior colleagues, supervisors, and those significantly older than you. And you would use it in situations where you feel comfortable enough being thanked. In other words, you'd use this if you thought your actions deserved an expression of appreciation. If someone thanks you for giving you a gift, for example, or answering her question, you could say, どういたしまして. Because it's pretty natural for you to be thanked for gestures like that, right? But if you think your actions didn't deserve to be mentioned or thanked, you might want to say the phrase that goes something like, don't mention it. In Japanese, we have casual and formal ways of saying this. In a casual situation, you would use いえいえ, which is literally translated as no, no, to mean, oh no, it's no big deal. Sort of like the Spanish phrase de nada, or it's nothing. For example, if someone thanks you for giving up their seat on the train or picking up something that someone dropped, saying いえいえ conveys the feeling that you thought it was only natural for you to give up your seat or to pick up the item, and you deserve no credit for it. But again, this would be used in response to casual gestures and situations. Most likely in such situations, they'll thank you in a casual form, like どうもありがとう. And in response, you respond casually, いえいえ. Now, for more formal situations, we use とんでもないです。とんでもないです。とんでもないです。Now, like いえいえ, とんでもないです means what I did is really no big deal. But this should be used in situations where the deeds were a bit more serious and for situations in which both parties benefited from. For example, if you went to a job interview and the interview thanks you for coming, you should say とんでもないです to mean, oh no, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to interview me. Another example would be, if you went to visit someone in the intensive care unit of the hospital, the sick person's family would probably go to great length to thank you politely. For reference, they would probably say something like, どうもありがとうございます. And since they're being so polite, and the situation is so serious, you should respond with the same degree of politeness and seriousness. In this situation, とんでもないです is the most appropriate response to convey that feeling of course I came, she was such a close friend of mine. And now for Sachiko's secret. I'll introduce a phrase I like to use in conjunction with the phrases we learned today. After saying don't mention it, I often add こちらこそ, 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 which literally means me too, but in a polite way. But it would be translated as no, I should be thanking you, or I enjoyed it too. That way, I feel like we can share the appreciation we have for each other and connect on a deeper level. And they won't feel obligated to return the favor. Speaking of obligations, Japan has a strict custom of gift giving. People give each other gifts for every opportunity possible. For example, if you have children, you'll get gifts for your kid's birthday, enrollment into a new school, graduation, Christmas, and New Year. And strictly speaking, each time you get a gift, you're supposed to give back a gift that's roughly half the price of the gift you received. Each and every single time. It can get really busy sometimes. Especially if you just got married or you just had children, you'll be showered with gifts. Great, but you'll have a huge to-do list waiting for you. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. You're welcome in the most common form. どういたしまして。どういたしまして. Don't mention it in the casual form. いいえいいえ。いいえいいえ. And don't mention it for more formal situations. とんでもないです。とんでもないです。And from Sachiko's Secret, me too. こちらこそ。こちらこそ。こちらこそ.
Lesson 3.
Today's phrase will help you take matters into your own hands. Today's phrase is ください, as in asking for something or someone to do something for you. In Japanese, please is ください. ください. Broken down by syllable, it's ください. All together now? ください. The most rudimentary way of using this phrase is pointing at something while saying it. But let's try and build this up a bit, shall we? Let's start with the expression, this please, which in Japanese is これください. Now let's take a look at the word order. In English, this comes before please. In Japanese, it's the same. In Japanese, this, これ, precedes please, ください. So together, it's これください. 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 Looking at this warrants a look at that, which is それ. それ in Japanese. Broken down by syllable, it's それ. Together, それ. So the expression for that please in Japanese would be それください. 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 Now with that covered, I'd like to introduce a part of the course that's called Sachiko's Secret. Shh! Don't tell anyone. It's a secret. Today's secret is that in Japan, most menus actually come with a picture of what's being offered. Be it a glass of beer, a plate of pasta, they all come with pictures. So, all you have to do is point at the picture and say, ください. If you can be a little bit more adventurous, you can say, これください, which is, this please. Do you think you can give that a shot? Let me give you another Sachiko secret. I actually point to menus myself. It's so tempting. It looks so good, the food, the beverages. It's just so, I can't resist myself. I just point to it, as if I just want to grab it out of the menu. Now that I've given you a Sachiko secret, promise me you'll try it out. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Word number 1, please. ください. 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 Next, this please. これください. これください。これください。Next, that please. I can't hear you. What's that? Yes. それください。それください。それください。
Lesson 4.
Today we'll cover basic greetings for the appropriate time of day. Like many other languages, Japanese has a greeting for the morning, afternoon, and evening. So let's cover all of them today. In Japanese, good morning is おはようございます。おはようございます。Let's break down this word and hear it one more time. おはようございます。おはようございます。Now the first sound, o, is an honorific form for the next word. Hayo is a conjugated form of the word that means early. This is followed by ございます, which is the polite way of saying is. All this is combined to make the polite way of saying good morning. おはようございます。おはようございます。Now let's move on to the afternoon. Good afternoon in Japanese is こんにちは。こんにちは。こんにちは。Let's break it down by syllable. こんにちは。こんにちは。Now let's hear it again. こんにちは。The first word, こんにち, is one way of saying today. Back in the olden days, they used to say こんにち to refer to today. Now we say 今日, which is a different word. Anyways, so こんにちは is a combination of こんにち, which means today, and は, which is a topic marking particle. So if you notice, the greeting literally means today is. It sounds like an incomplete sentence, doesn't it? That's because it is. Long ago, Japanese people used to greet each other by talking about the weather. Like, today is sunny, isn't it? Or today's a bit cloudy, isn't it? And since all those greetings started with konnichiwa or konnichiwa, this part became the greeting itself. It simply became shortened to konnichiwa, literally meaning today is. But we use it to mean good afternoon or hello. Konnichiwa. Now, I know in English we tend to say konnichiwa, but in Japanese we don't have a strong intonation for words. Usually it's just very, very flat. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. No intonation. And finally, we have the evening greeting, which is konbanwa. 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 Let's break it down by syllable. Konbanwa. Konbanwa. Now the first word, konban, means tonight. And we still use this in modern-day Japan. Konban. Let's break down this word and hear it one more time. Konban. Konban. This is also followed by the topic marking particle wa. So again, the greeting is similar to konnichiwa in that people used to greet each other in the evening also by talking about the weather. For example, こんばんは寒いですね, to mean, oh, tonight's a bit chilly, isn't it? And so the greeting itself just got shortened to こんばんは, こんばんは, to mean good evening. Now for Sachiko's secret. This is something I picked up working in the Japanese media. Now, a lot of media jobs start in the afternoon. For example, I had a TV producer job that started at noon and ended at 8 p.m. Or the worst shift started at 3 p.m. and ended at midnight. I guess people tend to be night owls. I'm not really sure. Anyways, no matter what time you start work or what time of the day it was, we used to always say おはようございます whenever we met someone. I don't know where that came from. It could be 3 p.m., it could be 8 p.m., it could be 9 p.m. If you're meeting someone for the first time, we said おはようございます. So, don't be surprised if someone says that to you really late at night. Just assume the person works in the media and has kind of a whacked up sense of time. I know I did. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Good morning is おはようございます。おはようございます。おはようございます。Good afternoon in Japanese is こんにちは。こんにちは。こんにちは。Good evening. こんばんは。こんばんは。こんばんは。
Lesson 5.
Now that we've covered basic greetings, today we'll introduce ways to say goodbye. Because obviously, you don't want to just walk away after a conversation. You want to end it, wrap it up. Okay, so a basic way to say goodbye that can be used for all occasions is さようなら. さようなら, which literally just means goodbye. Now, I know that in English we often pronounce it as sayonara, but in Japanese, there's really no strong intonation. It's just flat sayonara. Sayonara, with no strong intonation. Now, sayonara is fairly polite, so you can use it for all occasions and for people of all ages, social status, whatnot. Now let's break it down by syllable. Sayonara. Sayonara. And the more casual way to say goodbye is bye-bye or jane. But this is used only amongst close friends. It'd be considered really rude if you use it on someone significantly older than you. So be careful. And when I say older, I mean even if the person is just a few years older, it could be considered rude depending on the relationship. For example, when I get to know an older colleague enough to joke around with them, I would still use honorific form or the polite form. I would never say jane or bye-bye to an older colleague or a mentor for that sake. And for business settings, neither sayonara or bye-bye is acceptable. The best thing to say is 失礼します. 失礼します, which could be translated as please allow me to excuse myself. And when you say this, don't forget to bow. A more formal way to say this would be 失礼いたします. 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 For example, with colleagues, you could say 失礼します. But to a company president or a corporate client, you would say 失礼いたします, which is a grade higher. So it all depends on the relationship and the situation. And today's Sachiko secret is about my favorite topic, talking on the phone. We'll go over how to start and end a phone conversation. Now, the first thing you say when picking up the phone is もしもし. 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 Now, in modern day Japan, we only use it for that one purpose, to say hello on the phone. Only when you're picking up the phone would you say this. But this is actually short for the term 申します. 申します, which is a polite way of saying I'm about to speak or I am speaking. When they first invented telephones, I guess they were saying 申します, 申します, just as a way of testing the phone or just making sure that the person on the other line can hear you. But that got shortened from 申します, 申します to もしもし, which is much easier to say. So when the phone rings, you can say もしもし, or just say はい, which means yes. And after a nice long conversation, you can use the phrases we learned today to wrap up. Typically, you would recap the next time you'll see or talk to that person, such as, so I'll see you Sunday. Then put a cushion, じゃあ, or では. Then say goodbye, either in the polite form or the casual form, depending on who you're talking to. So to put all this together, for example, the casual way would be じゃあね or バイバイ. And the polite way would be では失礼いたします or では失礼します. So to put all this together, after the long conversation, recap when you'll see that person again. I'll see you Sunday. じゃあ失礼します or じゃあバイバイ. Now you're ready to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. The most common and useful way of saying goodbye, さようなら, さようなら, さようなら. The two casual ways of saying goodbye. Bye bye. じゃあね. Bye bye. Bye bye. Or じゃあね. 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 And for business settings, we have two ways of saying goodbye. The first one, the simpler one, is 失礼します. 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 And the more formal way of saying it is 失礼いたします. 失礼いたします. 失礼いたします.
Lesson 6.
In today's lesson, we'll cover an extremely important phrase. Where's the bathroom? Hey, without this, you could have serious bladder problems. In Japanese, where's the bathroom is トイレはどこですか? トイレはどこですか? Broken down by syllable, it's トイレはどこですか? Altogether, it's トイレはどこですか? Now let's take a look at the components. First we have トイレ, which is the katakana word for toilet. Now, this might sound a little bit crude to our US listeners, but the word is actually pretty acceptable in Japanese. So let's just break it down. トイレ, トイレ. This is followed by the topic marking particle wa, and then the interrogative where, which is どこ, どこ. So to recap what we have so far, トイレはどこ? Literally, toilet, where? And this is followed by です, the polite form of the rough equivalent to the English verb to be. Finally, we have か, a particle that indicates that the sentence is an interrogative. All the parts put together give us トイレはどこですか? トイレはどこですか? Now there's another way to say bathroom, which is お手洗い. 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 This word is made up of the honorific prefix o and the words for hand and wash. To use this, we would substitute お手洗い for the トイレ to get お手洗いはどこですか? お手洗いはどこですか? Now, when you finally get to the bathroom, there might be one last hurdle. In some cases, only the kanji, or the Chinese characters, are written on the doors. Ooh, what to do, what to do? Well, you can stop by the website and find the characters for man and woman. Find them inside the PDF. Or if you have an iPod, click the center button and you can find them there. Be sure to do that, or else you'll be walking into the wrong bathroom.
Lesson 7.
In today's lesson, we'll cover a useful phrase for when the Japanese is coming at you fast and furious, and the content is a little bit too much to handle. So today's phrase is, I'm sorry, I don't understand. In Japanese, I'm sorry is すみません, すみません. sumimasen. Sumimasen also means excuse me. So this is very useful. You can use sumimasen when you bump into a person, or if you want to get someone's attention at the restaurant, for example, you can say sumimasen. Or if you want to apologize for something. If you spill coffee on someone, yeeks, you can say sumimasen. Very, very useful. Now, the latter half of today's phrase, I don't understand, is wakarimasen. 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 Now, literally translated, this just means don't understand. In Japanese, a sentence doesn't necessarily have to state the subject. It's pretty obvious when you say it that you don't understand. So you don't have to say watashi wa wakarimasen. Just say wakarimasen. Now, this word stems from the root word wakaru, which means to know or to understand. Wakarimasen is the polite way of saying the negative form. So it's I don't understand in the polite form. Wakarimasen. Wakarimasen. It kind of rhymes. Sumimasen, wakarimasen. Sumimasen, wakarimasen. Pretty simple. Now, if you can't remember all of this, don't worry. You can just say wakarimasen. Building on this, we can add the phrase, I don't understand Japanese. We can use the same word we used earlier, wakarimasen. We simply say, Nihongo wa wakarimasen. The first word, Nihongo, means Japanese. Nihon is Japan, the country name. Go means language. So together, Nihongo is the language used in Japan, or Japanese. It's pretty simple. So if you wanted to say the language used in Spain, you just put the country name first. Spain go. Spain go. So go is just language. So the first word in our sentence is Nihongo. This is followed by wa, the topic marking particle. After this is wakarimasen. I don't understand. So all together, that's Nihongo wa wakarimasen. I don't understand Japanese. And now time for Sachiko's secret. If you're visiting a major city in Japan, like Tokyo, Osaka, Yokohama, most likely people will try to speak English to you. Whether or not they can speak English is a different story. But they can try to at least try their English on you. So you don't really need to worry about Japanese people talking really, really fast in Japanese to you. Another great thing is, most adults in Japan, I would say, have at least 3, 6, 9 years of English language education in schools, so they can understand written English. Their listening comprehension and their speaking skills may be lacking a bit, but if you write it out for them, they might be able to decipher what it is you're trying to say. So, for example, if you want to figure out where a station is, you can write it on a piece of paper. Where is Shibuya Station? You give it to them, they'll notice the words where, they'll notice the word Shibuya and station, and they might be able to point you in the right direction. So that's a good sign. Adults are always a safe bet. Children are an even bigger bet, actually, because a lot of mothers are making sure their kids become bilingual. They're taking their kids to all these language schools. I'm completely taken aback sometimes when, on the train, a little child goes up to a foreigner and just starts yapping away in English. It's like, hi, I'm Taro. I like baseball. Where are you from? It's really amazing. It's a big fad right now. So, if worst comes to worst, don't feel scared to use your English. But again, remember the simple phrases. Sumimasen for I'm sorry or excuse me, and wakarimasen for I don't understand. And luckily, they'll try to get help for you. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. I'm sorry, I don't understand. That was すみません, わかりません. And the second sentence, I don't understand Japanese. 日本語はわかりません. 日本語はわかりません. 日本語はわかりません.
Lesson 8.
In today's lesson, we'll cover another extremely important phrase. Can you speak English? I know you're going to use that a lot. Using this phrase as opposed to suddenly blurting in English is important for many reasons. For one, if the party you're speaking to doesn't understand English, at least they'll be able to understand what you're asking. And it shows a lot of respect to show that you took the effort to learn even a little bit of the language. And for these reasons and many more, we're going to cover this phrase. In Japanese, can you speak English is 英語を話せますか?英語を話せますか? I know that's a long sentence, so let's break it down. 英語を話せますか? Altogether, it's 英語を話せますか? Let's break it down by word. The first word, 英語, means English. 英語, 英語. This is followed by お, which is an object marker. お. Here, this is marking the word English, 英語. Followed by that is 話せますか? 話せます means can speak. 話せます. 話せます is can speak. And finally, we have the particle か, which is used to make an interrogative sentence. All together now, it's 英語を話せますか? Which literally means English can speak. Notice there's no subject in this sentence. Convenient thing about Japanese is you can say a lot of different sentences without the subject. It's implied. In this situation, it's implied that the subject is the person you're asking. That's because the sentence ends in a ka and the intonation is raised. Now let's try a different language. How about, let's say, French? In Japanese, in most cases, it's the Japanese name for the country of origin plus the word go. Go, which means language. For example, let's take French. France in Japanese is pronounced フランス, フランス. So the word French is simply フランス語, フランス語, フランス語. Pretty simple, right? Let's try this with Spanish. Spanish originated in Spain, and so we use the Japanese word for Spain, which is Spain. 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 Add a go at the very end, and you have Spaingo. 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 So if you wanted to ask, can you speak Spanish? You can say, スペイン語を話せますか? スペイン語を話せますか? Or if you wanted to ask for French, can you speak French? You would say, フランス語を話せますか? フランス語を話せますか? And as you've noticed, you can just change the first word to indicate the language and add を話せますか? Can you speak French? フランス語を話せますか? Pretty simple, eh? Now on to Sachiko's secret. Now after this explanation, you may wonder, where does the word eigo come from? There's no country called A. Good point. Well, eigo is actually an abbreviation of the word eikokugo. Eikokugo. Eikoku refers to the UK. But instead of saying eikokugo, they shortened it to eigo. Another interesting tidbit is that before World War II, Japanese schools actually differentiated between British English and American English. They even had a different name for it. British English was eigo, which we still use now. American English was beigo. America is still referred to as beikoku, beikoku in Japanese. So they took the first letter of the word beikoku, stuck it with a go, and turned it into 米語. 米語. Now, what were the differences? For example, in 米語, American English, we would learn, do you have a pen? In 英語, British English, we would learn how to say, have you a pen? Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what my parents' generation was taught. And that generation still differentiates English to this day. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. So let's do a recap. Can you speak English? 英語を話せますか? 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 Can you speak French? フランス語を話せますか? フランス語を話せますか?
Lesson 9.
In today's lesson, we'll cover some phrases that'll help you enhance your language learning while in Japan. We'll cover, can you say it again? So you can beef up your listening comprehension skills. And please speak slowly so you can keep trying patiently. Like with any other language, the more you listen to Japanese, the more you'll pick up. So take advantage of your access to native Japanese speakers while you're here. The first phrase, can you say it again, is もう一度言ってください. もう一度言ってください. Now let's break it down by syllable. もう一度言ってください. もう一度言ってください. Now let's look at it word by word. The first word, もう一度, means once again. もう一度, もう一度. This is followed by 言って, which is a form of 言う, the verb to say. 言って, 言って. And the last word, ください, which some of you are probably familiar with, means please. ください, ください. So altogether we have もう一度言ってください. Literally, this means again, say please. Or please say it again. Now, if someone just keeps repeating the same sentence at lightning speed, you may want to ask that person to slow down. But you want to ask a little bit more politely. In Japanese, please speak slowly is ゆっくり話してください. 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 The first word, ゆっくり, means slowly. ゆっくり, ゆっくり. This is followed by 話して, which is a conjugated form of the root verb 話す, which means to speak. 話して, 話して. And the last word is our favorite, ください, which means please. ください, ください. So altogether we have ゆっくり話してください. Literally, this means slowly speak, or please speak slowly. For Sachiko's Secret, we'll give you another quick and dirty way of getting through today's phrases. Now, obviously, it's much more polite to say the entire sentence we covered today. But if it's a bit too long to remember, you can get away with just the first half of the sentences. もう一度, which is literally just once again, is enough to say, can you say it again? もう一度, もう一度. And you can simply say, ゆっくり, which means slowly. ゆっくり, ゆっくり. But because these phrases alone might sound a little bit abrupt, and it might come off as rude, you may want to bow your head a little as you say it, because that's a gesture of respect in Japan. Or maybe even add the English word please at the end. もう一度 please. もう一度 please? They'll know that you're trying to be polite. Or you can try ゆっくり please. I know it's not even the same language, but it still comes off as very, very polite, and that's kind of important in Japan. Now, most Japanese people will know the English word please, so there's nothing to worry about here. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Please say it again. もう一度言ってください. 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 Speak slowly, please. ゆっくり話してください. ゆっくり話してください. And from Sachiko's Secret, the quick and dirty once again. もう一度, もう一度, もう一度. And the quick and dirty way of saying slowly. ゆっくり, ゆっくり, ゆっくり.
Lesson 10.
In today's lesson, we'll cover phrases used for apologizing. Now, if you haven't quite mastered Japanese, it's probably very useful to know these. Being able to apologize in Japanese will help you leave a great impression in case you bump into someone or you take someone's seat by mistake. Basically, if you mess up, it'll make a huge difference. So let's start. The Japanese phrase for apologizing is apologizing in Japanese goes like this. すみません. すみません. Let's break it down by syllable. すみません. Here it is again. すみません. Like I said, you can use this phrase whenever, if you bump into someone or if you want to get someone's attention as well. You can also use the phrase ごめんなさい. ごめんなさい. By syllable, that would be ごめんなさい. Together, that's ごめんなさい. That would be a more casual way of saying I'm sorry. But people might use it on you as well. Now, those two phrases are specifically meant to say I'm sorry. But the term すみません has a double meaning. Now, this phrase can be used in all sorts of situations. For example, if you accidentally bump into someone, or if you step on someone's shoes. Now, this may not seem like a realistic situation where you're living, but in Tokyo, where the subways and the trains are really, really crowded, this is a daily occurrence. People shove you, people shove their bags into you. Happens all the time. So, if you accidentally bump into someone, just say, すみません. And say it like you mean it too. すみません. Now, there's a strong possibility that people are going to step on your shoes. What do you do when that happens? Well, there's two options. The first one is pretty simple. It's a gesture. Simply nod your head really quickly, as if to say, okay, okay, okay. Basically, this just acknowledges that you heard them apologizing and that it's okay. The second option is to actually say, いいえいいえ. Again, that's いいえいいえ. いいえいいえ. It just means, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. It's a very formal way of saying it. If you can remember, this might leave a better impression. So, let's get on to Sachiko's secret. So Sachiko's secret of the day is that すみません can have a double meaning. It can also be used to mean excuse me, as in trying to get someone's attention. So if you're at a restaurant and you want to catch the waiter's attention, simply say すみません, and your job is done. Also, if you're at a store and you want someone's advice, you can call the store clerk over by saying すみません. It can be used in various different ways. So remember, すみません, the almighty word of the day. Be sure to use it when you come to Japan. Okay, So to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. In Japanese, the word that means excuse me, as in trying to get someone's attention, and also mean I'm sorry, is... Say it like you mean it. すみません. 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 And the more casual way of apologizing is ごめんなさい. 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 Be sure to apologize when you step on those toes.
Lesson 11.
Today we'll cover a greeting you'll hear when you enter a business establishment. In Japanese, the polite greeting when entering a place of business is いらっしゃいませ. いらっしゃいませ. Let's break it down by syllable. いらっしゃいませ. いらっしゃいませ. The first word, いらっしゃい, means come. Come, come. いらっしゃい simply means come. The last two sounds, ませ, is won't you? So together it's won't you come? いらっしゃいませ. いらっしゃいませ. So this phrase is used to mean basically welcome. Thanks for coming. And they'll say it right as you walk in the door. Some places even have a bell that rings when someone walks in, so that all the store employees know to say, いらっしゃいませ, in unison. It's actually kind of nice. You walk in there and you feel like a queen. I like it. Now, いらっしゃいませ is a formal, polite way of saying this. If you go to a more mom-and-pop joint, or if you go to a cafe or a restaurant that you frequent and the people know you, they might get a little bit more casual and simply say, いらっしゃい, which is the first half without ませ. いらっしゃい. 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 That's just the casual way of saying, come on in. Sometimes it'll sound like they're only saying shy. They're not actually just saying shy. The first half you just don't hear it. They're actually saying いらっしゃい, but all you hear is shy, because they say that part with such power. It's a way of not only welcoming the customers, but for the store employees to feel a sense of unity. To say this in harmony, it kind of gives them a sense of teamwork. So in a lot of places, they'll harmonize it. いらっしゃい, or simply, shy. Now, what do you do when someone actually says that to you? It would be kind of nice if you look at them, give them a smile, or if you just acknowledge the fact that they said that. If you want to be super polite, you can even bow to them a little bit. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Most of the time, though, when you get used to it, you just walk by as if nothing happened. Unfortunately, when you've been living in Japan for a long time, you kind of lose that appreciation. But you, since you're going to be in Japan for the first time, can acknowledge it, smile, leave a good impression of yourself and your country. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Welcome, said when entering a business establishment. The polite version. いらっしゃいませ. 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 The casual form. いらっしゃい. 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 Even shorter. Shy, which is not that common.
Lesson 12.
Today we'll cover getting to the table at a restaurant. As for placing an order, you'll just have to hang on until next week. When you first walk into a restaurant, most likely you'll hear いらっしゃいませ. which in Japanese is the polite greeting when entering a place of business. いらっしゃいませ. いらっしゃいませ. Let's break it down by syllable. いらっしゃいませ. いらっしゃいませ. Now the first question you'll hear is, how many people in your party? Which in Japanese is 何名様ですか? Let's hear it again. 何名様ですか? The first word, 何名, means how many people. Let's break that word down and hear it one more time. 何 and 名. 何 is what or how many, and 名 is the counter for people. This is followed by 様, which in Japanese is the honorific form added to the people counter. And this is followed by the copula desu, and the particle ka, which turns a sentence into an interrogative. Now that we have the question, let's go over how to answer it. In Japanese, the counter for people is mei. 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 And let's take this opportunity to recap some numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was 1 to 5. And let's put them together with a people counter, mei. So for one person, that's 1 mei. 2 people would be 2 mei. 3 is 3 mei. 4 is 4 mei. And finally, 5 people would be 5 mei. So when you answer, you just need to say 1 mei or 2 mei. Now remember the word sama is an honorific form, so you should never use it for yourself or your party. That's similar to how you would never call yourself Sachiko-san or Ms. Sachiko, because that sounds a little bit silly, doesn't it? Okay, now it's time for Sachiko's secret. I'll let you know what I do when I go into a restaurant. I simply hold up my fingers to indicate how many people I'm with. This helps avoid confusion, because even if you are fluent in Japanese, it's sometimes really loud in the restaurant that you can't really hear yourself speak, and the waitstaff can see your fingers from far away. Sometimes they won't even have to come all the way to the door to greet me. They just smile and point to the seat that I can take. So when in doubt, just hold up those fingers. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. How many people in your party? 何名様ですか? 何名様ですか? And if you wanted to answer 2 people, you would say 2名. 2名.
Lesson 13.
Today we'll go over getting a table in a restaurant. In Japan, smoking in restaurants is still accepted, but there are places that'll ask you if you want smoking or non-smoking. Now, remember when you enter a restaurant, you'll first hear いらっしゃいませ, which in Japanese is the polite greeting when entering a place of business. Then they'll ask you for how many people are in your party. And then they'll ask whether you want smoking or non-smoking. So let's go over that. Non-smoking in Japanese is 禁煙. 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 Let's break that down by syllable. 禁煙. 禁煙. The first letter kin stands for prohibited. 禁. Kin. This is followed by en, which is the Japanese character for smoking. So literally, it's prohibited smoking. 禁煙. 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 On the flip side, smoking is 喫煙. 喫煙. Let's break it down by syllable. 喫煙. Together, it's 喫煙. This one word together means smoking. Now, when somebody asks you if you want smoking or non-smoking seats, they'll just say 禁煙、喫煙、どちらにしますか? どちらにしますか? Broken down by syllable, that would be どちらにしますか? Which means, which would you choose? どちら means Which? どちら. どちら. The latter half of the question, にしますか, means will you do? します is the polite form of to do. And ka at the end of the sentence is a particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. So together, the question would be 禁煙、喫煙、どちらにしますか? To answer this, simply say either 禁煙, non-smoking, or 喫煙, smoking. Now you can also beat them to the punch by saying how many people are in your party and non-smoking even before they ask. As we covered in our previous lesson, you can tell them the number of people in your party by saying 1名 for one person or 2名 for two people. Then add 禁煙 if you want non-smoking, and then you're all set. And there you go, ready for an exquisite dining experience in the heart of Tokyo. Now here's a little Sachiko's secret. A lot of restaurants in Japan now have separate seating for smoking and non-smoking, but the two areas are sometimes so close together that the smoke actually filters into the non-smoking section. So when you enter a restaurant, pay attention to the layout of the place. And if the smoke starts to bother you during a meal, insist on moving to a better seat. Simply point to an empty seat further away from the smoking section and say, いいですか? Which means, is it all right? Or is it okay? If they look confused about why you're asking to be moved, simply do the smoking gesture and frown. That's what I do. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Non-smoking. 禁煙 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 Smoking. 喫煙 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 Would you prefer smoking or non-smoking? 禁煙、喫煙、どちらにしますか? 禁煙、喫煙、どちらにしますか? 禁煙、喫煙、どちらにしますか?
Lesson 14.
Now that we know how to get to a table at a restaurant, we'll cover getting by the table. First, you may have to get a hold of the staff. You can accomplish this by saying すみません, which means excuse me in Japanese. すみません. Let's break it down by syllable. すみません. Altogether, it's すみません. Once the waiter or waitress comes to your table, you can simply point to the menu and say, this please. In Japanese, that would be これください. これください. Let's break it down by syllable. That would be これください. Altogether, it's これください. The first word これ means this. Let's break this down and hear it one more time. これこれ. This is followed by ください, which in Japanese is please give me. ください. 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 So altogether, it's これください to mean this please. Now, if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, you could also ask, what do you recommend? In Japanese, that would be 何がおすすめですか? 何がおすすめですか? Let's break it down by syllable. 何がおすすめですか? Now let's hear it once again. 何がおすすめですか? The first word 何 means what. That's 何 何. This is followed by が, which in Japanese is a subject marker. This is followed by おすすめ, which means recommendation. おすすめ. おすすめ. That is followed by ですか. Desu is the copula, and ka is the particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. All together now, it's 何がおすすめですか? 何がおすすめですか? Got that so far? And now for Sachiko's secret. The great thing about Japanese restaurants is that their menus often have pictures of the foods they're serving. So you can really get a feel for what is being served without being able to read the menu. Sounds good, doesn't it? Sometimes they even have life-size models of the meals displayed in a glass case outside their restaurant. Have you seen those in guidebooks? They're really useful, not to mention really cute. But beware, the portions might be much smaller than they seem in the picture or displays. I felt betrayed many a times. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Excuse me. すみません. 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 This please. これください. 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 And lastly, what do you recommend? 何がおすすめですか? 何がおすすめですか? 何がおすすめですか?
Lesson 15.
Today we'll go over asking for the check when you're done eating at a restaurant. First, you may have to get a hold of the staff. Again, you can accomplish this by saying すみません, which means excuse me. Once the waitstaff is at your table, you can ask for the check. In Japanese, check please is お会計お願いします. 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 That was a long one, so we're going to break it down word by word. The first word, お会計, is a polite way of saying check. This is followed by お願いします, which is the polite way of saying please take care of it. So together, it's simply please take care of the check. When you say this, the staff will bring you the check to your table. You'll then need to take it to the cash register and pay it there when leaving the restaurant. If you're at a restaurant and you feel like the food is great and you want to tell that to the waitstaff or to the person that you're eating with, there's a certain phrase we can use. The word おいしい means delicious. おいしい, おいしい. Now, technically speaking, we should say おいしかったです. おいしかったです. おいしかったです, which is a polite way of saying this was delicious in the past tense. But here, we'll introduce おいしい because it's the simplest way of saying delicious, and it can be said during a meal as well. Now, in Japan, there's a set phrase that we say after a meal. It goes like this. ごちそうさまでした. 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 And the rough translation is, thank you for the wonderful meal. It's typically said to the person who cooked the food, the person who took you to the restaurant, or whoever paid for your meal. It's also a nice thing to say to the restaurant staff as well. They'll be really impressed and tickled pink if you say that. And now for Sachiko's secret. Like I said earlier, in Japan, diners usually don't pay at the table. They take their checks to the cash register, which is typically near the entrance of the restaurant. A staff will ring you up there and ask if you want to pay individually or pay as a group. To pay as a group, one person can just pay the total amount and make a hand gesture, meaning all of us. I'm sure you can imagine that. But if your party wants to pay separately, each person should say what dishes they ordered. And then the waitstaff will calculate the total amount for each person. So for example, I would go up to the cash register and say, I had the carbonara and the coffee. Or carbonara to kohi. They'll do the calculations and give you a total amount, and you pay there. Simple as that. And good news, there's no tipping in Japan, so there's no need to leave a tip at the table. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Check, please. お会計お願いします。お会計お願いします。お会計お願いします。Delicious in the present tense. おいしい、おいしい、おいしい。Delicious in the past tense. おいしかったです。おいしかったです。おいしかったです。And the set phrase we say after a meal. ごちそうさまでした。ごちそうさまでした。ごちそうさまでした。
Lesson 16.
Today we're going to cover something very simple but very, very useful. Being able to count to 10 will make your stay so much easier in lots of different situations. Getting a table at a restaurant or buying the right number of tickets, it can always help. And you can also ask for the time if you knew this. So let's get started. 1 in Japanese is ichi. 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 2 is ni. Ni. 3 is san. 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 So far we have, for 1, 2, and 3, ichi, ni, san. Moving on. 4 is yon. Sometimes it's called shi. Yon or shi. Number 5 would be go. Go. Number 6 is roku. 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 Number 7 can be nana. Nana. Or shichi. It depends on the usage, and we'll go into that a little bit later. So number 7 is either nana or shichi. Number 8 would be hachi. Hachi. Number 9 is kyu. Kyu. And lastly, number 10 is ju. Ju. That's a lot to remember in one lesson, but let's go through it again. From 1 to 10, it's ichi, ni, san, yon, go, roku, nana, hachi, kyu, ju. Let's try that again. 1 to 5 first. Ichi, ni, san, yon, go. 6 to 10 is roku, nana, hachi, kyu, ju. Let's see if you can say this all together. And say it with me. Ichi, ni, san, yon, go, roku, nana, hachi, kyu, ju. Are you getting the hang of it? Hope so. Now, here's a little Sachiko secret. I don't mean to discourage you, but there are many, many ways of saying numbers in Japanese. Don't ask me why. I don't like it either. So if someone tells you a number and you're not quite familiar with it, you could just patiently ask, ichi, ni, san, yon, go. This would let them know that you know one set of numbers, but you're not familiar with the set of numbers that they're using. Or, better yet, if all else fails, just use your fingers. Hold up 3 fingers to indicate 3. Hold up 4 fingers to indicate 4. Remember, numbers are a universal language. Hallelujah! Now let's go over the numbers we did today. Let's do a simple quiz here. I'll say a number and you tell me in Japanese. And it's not in order. Haha. 3. Did you get it? Yep, the number is 3. 3. 3. What about 6? 6. You got it. 6. What about 9? 9. 9. That's number 9. Let's try a little bit more. We'll go over the even numbers. 2. That would be 2. 4. That would be 4. 6. 6. Number 8. 8. Great, you're doing great so far. And lastly, 10. 10. All together now, let's try 1 to 10 all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Lesson 17.
Today's phrase is something for all you shoppers out there. The phrase is, how much? In Japanese, how much is いくらですか? 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 Altogether, it's いくらですか? Shopping at the market, at an eatery, or wherever you like to shop, this is an extremely high-frequency phrase. The most rudimentary way of using this phrase is pointing at something while saying it. But let's try and build this up a bit, shall we? Let's start with the expression, how much is this? Which in Japanese is, これはいくらですか? 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 Altogether, it's これはいくらですか? When asking for something a bit further away from you, the expression in Japanese is それはいくらですか? Let's take a look at that word. That is それ. Broken down by syllable, it's それ. それ. Altogether in a sentence, it's それはいくらですか? You got that? All right. Now you may have noticed the wa in there. That's a topic marking particle. But that's kind of beyond the scope of survival Japanese. So make sure you go to our website and check out the PDF. Now it's time for Sachiko's secret. The quick and dirty way of saying how much is いくら? 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 But be careful, folks. There's grave danger in using this word alone. If you get the intonation wrong, you could be asking for salmon eggs. How does that work? The word for salmon egg is いくら. Do you notice the difference right there? いくら. But to say how much is いくら? いくら? Notice the rising intonation. いくら? Because it's a question, you'll notice the rising intonation. いくら? Got that? So salmon egg is いくら. How much is いくら? Make sure you don't get that wrong. You don't want to end up with salmon eggs when you're trying to buy Chanel. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Number 1. How much? I can't hear you. Don't be shy. Come on, give it a shot. How much? いくらですか? 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 Next. How much is this? Next. How much is this? これはいくらですか?これはいくらですか? Last but not least, how much is that? それはいくらですか?それはいくらですか?
Lesson 18.
Today's phrase is related to the phrase how much, which in Japanese is いくらですか? The quick and dirty version of that, of course, is いくら. Okay? Now, for all you shoppers out there, we're going to teach you something extra special today that's going to come in really handy. It's the phrase for please do better than that. Do you have a better price for that? The Japanese is 負けてください. 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 Altogether, it's 負けてください. Let me explain the nuance behind all this. It's not only asking for a discount in price, it's also saying, hey, can you throw in a little bit more? Can you do me a little favor? Can you throw me a bone here? So, you might actually get a discount or not, but you might get an extra trinket here and there. You never know what to expect, and that's the great thing about it. I have to admit, it's not very customary to bargain in Japan. You don't walk into a posh department store and say, 負けてください. That would be a little bit freaky. At flea markets or open-air markets, you can always go around and see what they can do for you. Remember to smile and say, 負けてください. Say it gently, say it softly, say it friendly, be smooth, be soft. And hey, you never know. If you do get something, be sure to let us know. You'll have to give us half of what you got. So now that we've got that covered, it's time for Sachiko's secret. Now, when you're in my hometown of Osaka, there's a great phrase you can use. Now, Osaka people are historically merchants. So they like to get down to the nitty-gritty. They don't waste time with formalities and subtleties and what have you. They just get right down to it. And you can say, 負けてくれんか? That's the Osaka dialect for 負けてください, which means, hey, give me a break, give me a discount. We'll try that again. It's 負けてくれんか? You'll notice the rhythmical, musical sound to it. That's how Osaka Ben is spoken. 負けてくれんか? 負けてくれんか? The last word is actually extended. 負けてくれんか? All right. So all you people traveling to Osaka, give it a shot and let us know. Please do better in standard Japanese. 負けてください. 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 All right. Now the next one is the Osaka dialect. The Osaka dialect for give me a break is I can't hear you. You gotta say it with a lot of emotion. Come on. 負けてくれんか? 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 Be sure to make it rhythmical.
Lesson 19.
In today's lesson, we'll review the Japanese currency so that you know what the denominations are and you know the numbers that will come up when shopping. Now, in English, we refer to the Japanese currency as the yen, but in Japanese, we actually call it en. It's a much lighter sound. En. Now, the foreign exchange rate is always fluctuating, so I won't refer to it here, but I'd like to calculate it as roughly 100 yen a dollar. Using this equation, a 1,000 yen bill is like a $10 bill. As for phrases necessary for foreign exchange, we'll cover that in the next lesson. First, let's go over how to say large numbers in Japanese. We covered 1 to 10 in a previous lesson. To recap, here it is. 1 is ichi, 2 is ni. 3 is sang. 4 is shi or yong. There's 2 options right there. 5 is go. 6 is roku. 7 can be either nana or shichi. 8 is hachi. 9 is kyu. And 10 is ju. Yeah, that's a lot of information. So 1 to 10 altogether is ichi, ni, san, shi or yong, go, roku, nana or shichi. 8 is hachi, kyu, ju. Now, to say any number between 10 and 99, you simply combine the numbers 1 to 10. For example, for 68, you would literally just say 6, 10, 8. So that would be 68. 68. Literally just 6, 10, and 8. Which coins would you use to pay that? Well, there are several combinations. But one way is to use 1 50 yen coin, 1 10 yen coin, 1 5 yen coin, and 3 1 yen coins. That adds up to 68, right? Yes, it does. Yes. Now, we also have 100 yen coins and 500 yen coins. In Japanese, 100 is 100. 100. 100. To say 500, simply say the words 5 and 100 in a row. So that would be 500. 500. Typically, it's just the number 1 to 10 plus 100. But the exceptions are 300 becomes 300. 400 and 500 are just normal 400, 500. But 600 becomes 600 because it's just easier to say 600 rather than 600 because that's kind of awkward, right? And 800 becomes 800 for the same reason. So let's go over the bills. Now, in Japan, we have a 1,000 yen bill, 5,000 yen bill, and the largest 10,000 yen bill. Now, we actually also have the 2,000 yen bill that was printed back in the year 2000 to celebrate the new millennium. But I rarely see them used. Perhaps people are keeping them at home as souvenirs. I know I did that for about 3 years after it came out. Now let's cover the numbers we need to talk about these bills. In Japanese, 1,000 is sen. 1,000 yen is simply sen-en. Sen-en. 2,000 yen would be a combination of the number 2, 1,000, and yen. So it would be 2,000 yen. 2,000 yen. 2,000 yen. And using the same logic, 5,000 yen would be 5,000 yen. 5,000 yen. 5,000 yen. Now comes the complicated part. Yes. In Japanese, 10,000 is not simply pronounced 10 and 1,000. We actually have another word specifically to mean 10,000. That word is man. So 10,000 yen is 1,000,000 yen. 1,000,000 yen. So 20,000 yen would be 2,000,000 yen. 2,000,000 yen. 30,000 yen is 3,000,000 yen, and so forth. Once you're in Japan and you actually have an 1,000,000 yen bill in your hand, you'll get used to the concept. And I've noticed a lot of foreign residents who live here, they just get used to the man-en concept, that they stick that in an English conversation. They say, oh, I have 3 man, or hey, I have 5 man. It's just easier when you get used to the bills. So for today's Sachiko Secret, we'll talk money. Yes, my favorite topic. Not. I actually have a very sweet story related to money. The 5 yen coin is considered a good luck charm for finding that someone special. Why would a cheap coin that buys almost nothing be considered lucky? Because it covers the 5% tax when you buy a 100 yen product. No, seriously. The real reason is that because 5 yen is called goen in Japanese. Goen, which is a homophone with the word goen. which is a word to describe karma or destiny in meeting someone. That's why a 5 yen coin is commonly given as a donation at Shinto shrines. And also, you'll see nicely wrapped 5 yen coins in a box at a souvenir shop. That's a gift that says, I hope you meet that someone special in your life. Try it. Get one for yourself or for a friend and see what happens. If it works, give us a post. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください。100 100 100 100 1000 1000 1000 1000 5000 5000 5000 5000 10,000 万 万
Lesson 20.
In today's lesson, we'll learn about a really useful place, the Internet Cafe, or as it's known in Japanese, ネットカフェ。ネットカフェ。ネットカフェ。As you've noticed, this is simply the Japanese pronunciation of net cafe, but we call it ネットカフェ. Funny, isn't it? In Japan, you can find net cafes at stations or on the streets of a business or residential area. But internet access is also available at manga kissa, or comic book cafes. Manga kissa. Manga kissa. The first word, manga, means comic book. In English, you pronounce it manga, but actually in Japanese, it's manga, because we don't have that a sound that we have in English. So the word in Japanese is manga. Kissa is short for kissaten, which means cafe. So together, it's called manga kissa, to mean comic book cafe. Now, in residential areas, manga kissas are all over the place. They are almost on every block. So if you're looking for internet access in a residential area, it might be faster to look for a manga kissa because they're more popular. So today, we'll learn how to say, where is an internet cafe or manga cafe? In residential areas in particular, manga kissas may be easier to find than straightforward internet cafes. So when you ask around, be sure to ask for both. In Japanese, where is an internet cafe or manga cafe would be ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか? ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか? Yeah, I know it's a long sentence, but we'll break it down one by one. So the first word, ネットカフェ, is internet cafe. The next word is あるいは, and this means or. あるいはあるいは. The next word is 漫画喫茶. 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 So far we have ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶, internet cafe or manga cafe. This is followed by the topic marking particle は followed by どこ, which means where. どこ. どこ. です is the copula. Ka is a particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. So the latter half of the sentence is はどこですか? はどこですか? Which means where is it? Altogether, the sentence is ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか? Quite literally, that would be internet cafe or manga cafe is where? Or where is an internet cafe or manga cafe? Pretty simple, eh? Now let me tell you a little bit more about manga kissa because they are a dream come true, not only for manga maniacs, but also for non-maniacs like me. Manga kissas have huge libraries of manga stocked from floor to ceiling, and their inventory includes all types of manga, old and new. And these cafes also have fashion magazines, tabloids, and other stuff for non-manga readers like me. As for the interior, they have really comfortable, cushiony chairs and sofa for manga readers, and they have computers lined up in one corner of the store for net surfers. Some have private rooms with leather chairs and your own computer. Other stores offer premium seats with luxuries such as reclining leather seats. And the best part of it all is that most internet cafes or manga cafes have all-you-can-drink bars offering tea, coffee, soft drinks, and soda. Unfortunately, they don't have alcohol. But hey, it's still all you can drink, right? And these stores sell all sorts of snacks and instant foods that you can eat at the computer or on the sofa. Some cafes even let you bring in food from other stores, so you can eat pizza from a nearby pizza shop and surf the net at the same time. Now let me walk you through what you need to do once you locate a manga kissa. When you walk into the store, the first thing you do is approach the reception desk and tell them what you're here for. Just say, インターネット or manga, and then they'll print out a tab that states the time you signed in. When you leave the store, simply bring that tab with you to the counter, and they'll charge you for the number of hours you stayed. Now, the price differs, but it's usually about 400 yen to 500 yen per hour. That's roughly $4 to $5 US an hour, and that's regardless of whether you use the internet or read manga. The price is all-inclusive for the time you stayed there. And if you're thinking of staying for 3 hours or longer, you might want to ask about discount packages. A lot of places offer a discount, like 1,200 yen for 3 hours, or an overnight discount package as well. So be sure to ask. Another critical question for all you laptop-packing net surfers out there is, does this store have Wi-Fi? In Japanese, that would be, このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか? このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか? このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか? The first word, この, means this. That's followed by お店, which is a polite way of saying store. Ni is a particle roughly translated as in, at, or on. Wa is a topic marking particle. So far we have このお店には, which means inside this store. Wi-Fi is simply the Japanese pronunciation of the English word Wi-Fi. And あります is the polite way of saying there is. The last particle, ka, turns a sentence into an interrogative. So altogether, このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか? means, does this store have Wi-Fi? Now, in Japan, Wi-Fi access is available at various stores, cafes, and train stations. So many different companies offer these services, so we can't mention them all here. But for non-Japanese, the most familiar stores may be Starbucks and McDonald's. Usually, a Japanese service provider offers a service in conjunction with the store. So users would have to sign up with the provider, and the payments and access methods will depend on who is providing the service. So let's learn some phrases necessary for signing up. To ask, how do I access the internet? You would say, ネットにはどうやって接続しますか? 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 The first word, ネット, is the Japanese pronunciation of the word net or internet. Ni is a particle roughly translated as in, at, or on. Wa is a topic marking particle, and どうやって is a casual way of saying how do I. And 接続 means connect. します is the polite way of saying will do. And ka is a particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. So altogether, ネットにはどうやって接続しますか? means how do I access the internet? And when you sign up, you'll be asked for a username and password. In Japanese, username and password please is ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。Username is obviously the Japanese pronunciation of the word username. And パスワード is the Japanese pronunciation of password. O is the object marking particle, and お願いします is the polite way of saying, please take care of it. So altogether, it's ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。When they ask you this, simply provide a username and password, and you're on your way to the internet highway. Now, this lesson is becoming really long already, but let me add a Sachiko secret. Now, manga kissa are great for more than just reading manga. As you may know, the trains don't run 24 hours in Tokyo. So, if you miss your last train at night, you're stuck. You can't get home, you don't have money for a cab, and you certainly can't afford to stay in a 5-star hotel. What do? You stay at a manga cafe. Just walk around the neighborhood and look for a 24-hour manga cafe. They offer overnight packages, so it's not actually that expensive. You could probably spend the night for about 3,000 yen or less. And depending on the store, you might get a really, really comfortable sofa, or you could get the private room with your own computer and your own sofa and your own lounge. You may even want to try spending the night at a manga cafe just as an experience. It's very unique. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Where is an internet cafe or manga cafe? ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか？ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか？ネットカフェあるいは漫画喫茶はどこですか？ And the word for internet is インターネット。インターネット。インターネット。Does this store have Wi-Fi? このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか？このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか？このお店には Wi-Fi ありますか？ How do I access the internet? ネットにはどうやって接続しますか？ネットにはどうやって接続しますか？ネットにはどうやって接続しますか？ Username and password, please. ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。ユーザーネームとパスワードをお願いします。
Lesson 21.
Buses are pretty useful for getting around Japan if you have a detailed map of the bus routes. In today's lesson, we'll go over how to pay for the bus fares. Now, for long-distance routes, like buses to the airport or intercity buses, you'll have to pay for the tickets beforehand. Today, we'll practice getting a bus ticket to Narita Airport. First of all, in Japanese, Narita Airport is Narita Kukou. Narita Kukou. Let's break that down by syllable. Narita Kukou. Narita is the name of the airport, and Kukou means airport. So our location is Narita Kukou. In Japanese, one ticket to Narita Airport, please, would be 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください. Yeah, that was a really long one. Let's take it slowly. 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください. 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください. Yeah, let's break this down because it's a really long sentence. The first word we just covered. It means Narita Airport. The following word, made, means to a destination. Made, made. This is followed by no, which in Japanese is the rough equivalent of. And this is followed by kippu, which in Japanese means ticket. Now, Japanese nouns don't have a distinction between singular and plural, so the word itself, kippu, remains the same, no matter how many tickets you're getting. And this is followed by o, the object marking particle. Ichi means one, and mai is a counter for paper, tickets, and other things. Together, ichimai means one ticket. And the last part, kudasai, means please give me. Kudasai. 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 So, all together, we have 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください. Literally, this means Narita Airport to one ticket, please give me. 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください. Now, if you want to buy more than one ticket, for example, you want to buy two, you can accomplish this by saying 2枚 instead of 1枚. 2 means two, and mai is the counter for paper objects. So in the sentence, here we go. 成田空港までの切符を2枚ください. We simply substitute 1枚 with 2枚. Okay? Now you might also need to ask, how much is it to your desired destination? For this, we'll use the same destination as above. In Japanese, how much is it to Narita Airport becomes 成田空港まではいくらですか? 成田空港まではいくらですか? Now let's break it down by syllable. 成田空港まではいくらですか? Altogether, it's 成田空港まではいくらですか? The first half of the sentence is the same as before. 成田空港まで means to Narita Airport. Wa is a topic marking particle. いくらですか means how much is it? So literally, this means Narita Airport to tickets, how much? To mean how much is it to Narita Airport? Now it's time for Sachiko Secret. If you're going to ride the local buses that circle around a small neighborhood, you won't need to buy tickets beforehand. Usually, a local bus ride is one set price, regardless of where you get off. Fares are usually about $2 or so for a one-way ride. And the way you get it is very simple. When boarding a bus, you simply pay the fare into a machine right next to the driver. It's all right not to have exact change. But if you do need change, tell the driver first. He'll point to a different machine you'll have to put the fare into to get change. Complicated, yes. Once you're on the bus, don't forget to press a button around the seats when you've neared your destination. If there's no one standing by the bus stop, and none of the passengers ring the bell before that stop, the bus might not stop. You don't want to be left behind when you're trying to stick to your itinerary. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. One ticket to Narita Airport, please. 成田空港までの切符を1枚ください。成田空港までの切符を1枚ください。成田空港までの切符を1枚ください。Two tickets to Narita Airport, please. 成田空港までの切符を2枚ください。成田空港までの切符を2枚ください。And lastly, how much is it to Narita Airport? 成田空港まではいくらですか? 成田空港まではいくらですか?
Lesson 22.
Part 2 of our bus ride. Now, once you're on the bus, you'll hear announcements informing the passengers of where the bus will stop next. Now, in case there's no English announcement, you may not catch the location. So, the phrase, "What's the next stop?" may be indispensable. In Japanese, "What's the next stop?" is 次のバス停はどこですか?次のバス停はどこですか? Let's break it down by syllable. 次のバス停はどこですか? Now let's hear it once again. 次のバス停はどこですか? The first word, 次, means next. 次. This is followed by no, which in Japanese is the rough equivalent of. No. So to recap here, we have this is followed by バス停, which means bus stop. So far we have 次のバス停. Literally, this means the next bus stop. 次のバス停. Let's take a look at the remaining half. はどこですか? Wa is a topic marker. どこ means where. どこ. です is a copula. And ka turns a sentence into an interrogative. So the last half is はどこですか? Literally meaning, where is it? Altogether, where is the next bus stop would be 次のバス停はどこですか? 次のバス停はどこですか? Literally, this means next bus stop. Where is it? Pretty simple. Now, another thing you could do is simply ask if your desired destination is the next stop. For this phrase, we'll use Narita Airport as a destination. So the phrase, is Narita Airport the next stop? Would be 成田空港は次ですか? 成田空港は次ですか? Let's break that down by syllable. 成田空港は次ですか? Now let's hear it all together. 成田空港は次ですか? Don't worry, we're going to break this down by word. The first word, 成田空港, of course, is Narita Airport. 成田空港. This is followed by the topic marker, wa. That's followed by 次, which means next. 次. Desu, again, is a copula, and the last ka is a particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. So altogether we have 成田空港は次ですか? Literally, this means Narita Airport is next. 成田空港は次ですか? Today's Sachiko secret is pretty special. It's a tactic I employ, and I'm only giving it out to you guys. There's a way to make sure you're on the right bus and get the bus driver to remind you where to get off. Killed two birds with one stone, right? Because there are so many buses in Tokyo, it really makes it difficult to figure out which bus is going where. So this is what I do. Before you pay for the bus, you ask the driver whether this bus stops at your desired destination. You can simply say the name of the destination and wait for the driver to nod or shake his head. Then, ask him to tell you when the bus reaches that destination. Simply say the destination name and 教えてください, which means please tell me. 教えてください. 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 That way, he can call out to you when he stops there. And it's happened. People are pretty friendly. They want to help just as much as anybody else. And remember, When getting off a bus, exit from the rear doors. The front doors are reserved for passengers getting on the bus. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. What is the next stop? 次のバス停はどこですか? 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 Next phrase. Is Narita Airport the next stop? 成田空港は次ですか? 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 And lastly, from Sachiko's Secret, we have, please tell me. 教えてください. 教えてください. 教えてください.
Lesson 23.
Today we'll try getting a train ticket. In Japan, there's two ways of getting a train ticket. You can either go to the vending machine and pop in your money if you already know how much it's going to cost you. For this, you need to check a map and determine how much you're going to need. Now, if you don't want to put up with that, you can simply walk up to a ticket gate window and tell them where you're going. Let's work on that today. In today's lesson, we'll use Tokyo Station as a destination to practice how to get our train tickets. In Japanese, station is eki. 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 So Tokyo Station would be Tokyo Eki. Now let's put that in a sentence. Please give me tickets to Tokyo Station would be 東京駅までの切符をください. 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 Don't worry, we're going to break this down by word. The first word, 東京駅, is, like we said, Tokyo Station. まで means to, usually referring to a destination. No is the rough equivalent of the English word of. 切符 means ticket. So far we have 東京駅までの切符. Literally, this means Tokyo Station to of tickets. So it means tickets to Tokyo Station. And the remaining part of the sentence is をください. を is the object marker. ください means please give me or please do this. Altogether, it's 東京駅までの切符をください. Literally, this means Tokyo Station to tickets, please give me. Or please give me tickets to Tokyo Station. Pretty simple, eh? Now here's Sachiko's secret. I don't remember exactly when this started, but the Tokyo subway system has become a lot easier to read. All the train stations now have a letter and a number to substitute for them. That way, you don't have to remember really long names like Akasaka Mitsuke or Shinjuku Sanchome. Yeah, you get my point, right? The Japanese is still there, obviously, but there's also a letter and a number set like M9 or M13. And it's much, much easier for foreigners to get by. I hope that helps. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Tickets to Tokyo Station, please. 東京駅までの切符をください. 東京駅までの切符をください. 東京駅までの切符をください.
Lesson 24.
As you may know, Japan has the high-speed interprefectural bullet train system called Shinkansen. 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 That's just the Japanese word for bullet train. The fastest one, the Super Express Nozomi, connects Tokyo and Osaka in about 2.5 hours. That's about 500 kilometers in distance. It's really convenient. I use it all the time to go home to Osaka. So in today's lesson, we'll work on getting the tickets for the Shinkansen. We can accomplish this by saying, "Tickets to destination, please." In today's lesson, we'll use Osaka Station as an example. In Japanese, station is eki, eki, eki. So our location altogether is Osaka eki. And the question, "Tickets to Osaka Station, please," is 大阪駅までの切符をください. Yes, very long sentence, so we'll break it down by syllable. 大阪駅までの切符をください. Altogether, it's 大阪駅までの切符をください. Now let's look at it word by word. The first word, Osaka, is obviously Osaka. The next word, eki, means station. That much we've covered so far. This is followed by made, a particle that can be translated as to or until. Made, made. The next word, no, can be roughly translated as of. The word kippu means ticket. Kippu, kippu. So to recap here, we have 大阪駅までの切符. Literally, this means Osaka Station to of ticket, or tickets to Osaka Station. Let's take a look at the remaining sentence. O is an object marking particle. And the last word, kudasai, means please. So altogether we have 大阪駅までの切符をください. Literally, this could be translated as Osaka Station to of tickets, please. Or tickets to Osaka Station, please. 大阪駅までの切符をください. 切符 means ticket. Now, in Japanese, we don't differentiate between singular or plural nouns. So regardless of how many tickets you're getting, you can simply say 切符. Pretty useful. And now for Sachiko's secret. I always take the Shinkansen when I go home to Osaka from Tokyo, where I now live. So I'm a seasoned pro. Let me take you through the steps of buying a Shinkansen ticket. First of all, get to a JR station where the Shinkansen stops, like Tokyo Station or Shin Osaka Station. Now, JR is the name of a previously state-owned train line that covers almost all parts of Japan. It stands for Japan Railway. So get to a JR station, find a Shinkansen counter, and tell the person your destination. They'll tell you which Shinkansen route you need to take. There are many different Shinkansen routes depending on your destination. So be sure you've got the right one. For example, the Tokyo to Osaka route would be the Tokai Shinkansen line. Tokai Shinkansen line. So you would go to the counter for the Tokai Shinkansen and not the other Shinkansen lines. Next, you tell them if you want seats in an ordinary car or the first class green car, as it's called. Green-sha. Green-sha. Sha just means car. Now, all the seats in the green car are reserved seating, so you'll get a specific seat number. But if you want a seat in the ordinary cars, you can choose between a reserved seat or a non-reserved seat. The great thing about reserved seats is obviously that you're guaranteed a seat. But you have to make sure you get on that specific train that leaves at a specific time. I personally prefer non-reserved seating because I don't want to worry about making it on time for a particular train. But with non-reserved seats, there's always the risk of not being able to sit down. And that's a long trip to be standing up. Believe me, I've done it. 2.5 hours on a Shinkansen? Ooh, pretty tiring. And another thing is, reserved seats sell out pretty quickly. So a non-reserved ticket may get you on an earlier train. Once you get the tickets, find out which platform your Shinkansen leaves from and make sure you're there when the bullet train pulls in. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Bullet train. 新幹線. 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 Tickets to Osaka Station, please. 大阪駅までの切符をください。大阪駅までの切符をください。大阪駅までの切符をください。
Lesson 25.
Today's lesson is Riding on the Train, Part 3. So after you buy your train ticket and you get to your platform, there's still something you should do. Always, always, always check to see if you're on the right train. I cannot stress this enough. That's because local trains and express trains make different stops. So even if you're on the right platform, heading in the right direction, the next train that pulls in may not be the one you need to take. And in some complicated situations, some train lines split at a certain stop. So you end up going to a completely different direction. That's happened to me so many times, and I cannot stress how important it is to check your destination. You can basically ask anybody who's standing on the platform, but the person who would know best is anybody who's working for the train company. And you can tell who that person is by looking at their uniforms. Okay? So we'll try asking, will this train go to blah, blah, blah? In Japanese, station is eki. Eki. So Tokyo Station would be Tokyo Eki. Now to ask, will this train go to Tokyo Station in Japanese? It would be Tokyo Eki made ikimasu ka? Tokyo Eki made ikimasu ka? Now this sentence alone just says, will it go to Tokyo Station? So point to the train and ask, Tokyo Eki made ikimasu ka? Tokyo Eki, like we've covered in previous lessons, means Tokyo Station. Made means to. Ikimasu ka means will it go? Ikimasu ka? Ikimasu ka? Ikimasu ka? Which means will it go? The ka turns a sentence into an interrogative. So all together we have Tokyo Eki made ikimasu ka? Tokyo Eki made ikimasu ka? Literally, this means Tokyo Station to will it go? Or will it go to Tokyo Station? Ikimasu ka? Ikimasu ka? Ikimasu ka? Which means will it go? Now on to Sachiko's secret. You know that Japan is a country that really emphasizes harmony and getting along and everything. And I don't mean to sound preachy, but yes, there are a lot of rules we need to follow on the trains. First of all, there's no cell phone usage allowed. You know, you still see somebody answering the cell phone really quickly and quietly and whispering into the phone. I mean, that might be acceptable. You know, you're expecting a call from the office, it's really urgent, and you just want to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm on the train, I'll call you back. I think that's acceptable. But picking up the phone and talking really loudly as if it was your living room? No, that would be frowned upon, actually. So you want to avoid that. Also, each train car has what we call a silver seat. Silver meaning the graying society. It's a group of seats, usually a clump of 4 seats, that's reserved for the elderly, the physically challenged, and pregnant ladies. It's okay to sit there if there aren't anybody in need of those seats, But if you are sitting in these silver seats, they're called courtesy seats in English, you may want to give up your seat when an elderly or a pregnant woman or a physically challenged person walks into the train. And another thing, trains can get really, really crowded during rush hours, and you don't want your shoulder bag or your backpack taking up space. So what people recommend is that you take off your bags and put it on the overhead racks. Every single train line has a nice little rack above the seats. That's what it's there for, and you should definitely take advantage of that. It's just easier for you physically, and it takes up less space. There's nothing more annoying than people clogging up space with their luggage. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Will this go to Tokyo Station? 東京駅まで行きますか? 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 And don't forget to point at the train that you're talking about.
Lesson 26.
In today's lesson, we'll use a phrase used to get you to your destination when riding a taxi. We'll look at the most basic way to express this, which is the word to followed by a destination. In today's lesson, we'll use Tokyo Station. In Japanese, station is eki. 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 So our location would be Tokyo Eki, Tokyo Station. In Japanese, to plus the location would be Tokyo Eki e. Tokyo Eki e. Let's break it down by syllable. Tokyo Eki e. The word for to in Japanese is e, so you simply stick that to the end of the word describing the destination. Tokyo Eki e. Tokyo Eki e. Pretty simple, right? Now that's the most basic way of expressing where you'd like to go. Well, actually, just saying your destination should work, but don't let the people producing this hear that. You can also say, in a sort of polite way, to the destination, please. Which in Japanese is, Tokyo Eki e onegai shimasu. Let's look at the latter half of that sentence. Tokyo Eki e onegai shimasu. Let's break it down by syllable. Tokyo Eki e onegai shimasu. Tokyo Eki e onegai shimasu. Tokyo Eki e onegai shimasu. Let's look at the latter half of this sentence. Onegai shimasu. Now that's just a formal way of saying please. It can be broken down into two parts. Onegai, which means favor, and shimasu, which literally just means to do. Together, onegai shimasu is a set phrase for saying please. It can be used with a combination of other phrases, as you'll see in other survival phrases. It can also be used for asking for things, like 地図お願いします. 地図, which means map. And I know you'll be asking for this a lot. 地図をお願いします. Map, please. 地図をお願いします. Now let's break down the latter half by syllable. おねがいします. お願いします. It's very useful, so let's keep it in mind. Now time for Sachiko's secret. I don't know if you've heard about this from your friends, but taxis in Japan will treat you like royalty. My goodness, it's really a nice experience. The doors open and close automatically, and the cab drivers even wear white gloves. where else would you see that? It's really nice. One driver even offered me tissue when I had a runny nose. Really sweet. And this is a mistake a lot of people make. When you get on a cab, don't touch the door. Everything is automated. You might freak out the driver, you might hurt yourself. So remember, when you see a cab, don't touch the door. For your own safety, please. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. To the destination, please. 東京駅へお願いします. 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 And a bonus vocabulary. Map, please. 地図をお願いします. 地図をお願いします. 地図をお願いします.
Lesson 27.
In today's lesson, we'll introduce a phrase that will help you get a beat on something specific you're looking for. Today's phrase is, where can I buy blah blah blah? First, we need something to look for, so let's use the word manga, which means comic book in Japanese. In English, it might be pronounced manga, but in Japanese, we don't have that strong ah sound, so it's simply manga, manga, to mean comic book. If your friend or nephew has been begging you to get you some manga, here's how you ask. Where can I buy manga? In Japanese is 漫画はどこで買えますか? 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 Now the first word, manga, means comic book. This is followed by the topic marking particle wa, 漫画は. And どこ means where. どこ, どこ. So to recap so far, we have 漫画はどこ. Literally, this means comic book where. The next particle, de, is used to indicate location, among other things. And the next word, 買えます, is the polite way of saying can buy. 買えます, 買えます. And the last sound, か, is the particle that turns a sentence into an interrogative. So altogether we have 漫画はどこで買えますか? 漫画はどこで買えますか? Literally this means comic book where can buy, or where can I buy a comic book? The most likely answer would be any bookstore. Manga is everywhere. They just sell them at any bookstore you can think of. But the mecca for manga and animation goods is a place called Akihabara, which also specializes in electronic gadgets. Just get off the Akihabara station on the JR line, which is 2 stops north of Tokyo Station, and just walk around. There are plenty of manga stores. You cannot even avoid them. Now, to ask for a different item, we can just replace the word manga with anything else that you're looking for. For the sake of learning Japanese culture, let's use the word kimono, which is the traditional Japanese attire. Kimono, kimono. In Japanese, where can I buy a kimono is 着物はどこで買えますか? 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 This sentence will come in handy when asking taxi drivers, hotel staff, or passers-by to find that specific gift that your friend asked you to get. Now that you're able to ask, you're going to get an answer. How to respond to that will be a whole nother lesson in and of itself, so stay tuned. In today's Sachiko's Secret, we'll go over the basics of traditional Japanese attire, since we mentioned the word kimono in our lesson. The word kimono literally just means something to wear. kimono. It's the name of the traditional Japanese attire that you've probably seen geisha and other women wearing in the movies or in posters. There are several layers of cloth, most likely silk, wrapped around the body and tied up with an obi, or a sash around the stomach. The obi can be tied in lots of different ways, from simple shapes to really elaborate ones, and they're usually very, very colorful. And on your feet, you wear tabi, which are ankle-high white socks that have a separation between the big toe and other toes. Because the traditional sandals we wear are often separated between the big toe and the other toe. And these sandals are called zori. The casual ones are zori. And the ones with a little bit of height on them are geta, which you could wear barefoot as well. Now, you may have heard the term yukata as well. Yukata are like kimono, they're shaped the same, but they're typically made of cotton rather than silk or synthetic fiber, and often worn in the summer or after a bath. That's why yukata are not worn in layers and they're lightweight. Now, in modern-day Japan, the typical Japanese would only wear kimono and yukata on special occasions. For example, in the summertime, we'd wear a yukata to a summer festival to dance the traditional bon odori, or when we go out to watch fireworks. The kimono, which is much more formal, is often worn by women on New Year's visits to shrines or temples, as well as to graduation ceremonies, weddings, and other celebratory events. Kimono could also be worn as a uniform depending on your job. For example, women waitressing at Japanese restaurants or working at traditional Japanese inns might wear them at work. One interesting thing to add would be that kimono and yukata often have long sleeves that almost reach the ground. The long sleeves are for women who are not married yet. Women who get married would cut the sleeves short, and when you do, that sleeve can serve as a sort of pocket for carrying around your wallet or whatnot. Nowadays, you could put your cell phone in there, I guess. But it's pretty useful. If you get a chance, definitely try wearing a kimono. But beware, it's pretty tight around the stomach, so I would really recommend not wearing it after a meal. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Where can I buy manga? 漫画はどこで買えますか? 漫画はどこで買えますか? 漫画はどこで買えますか?
Lesson 28.
In today's lesson, we'll introduce a phrase that will help you find the store you're looking for. Today's phrase is there a blah 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 store here? Well, first we need to define the store. So let's use my favorite business, convenience store. This in Japanese is konbini. Konbini. Yeah, it sounds kind of similar, doesn't it? Convenience store in Japanese would be pronounced konbiniensu store. But since that's so long to remember, we just shorten it to konbini. 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 So, let's try to say, is there a convenience store around here? In Japanese, that would be コンビニは近くにありますか? コンビニは近くにありますか? Quite a long sentence, but we'll break it down word for word. The first word is convenience store, like I just mentioned, コンビニ. That's followed by the topic marking particle は. That's followed by 近く, 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 which means nearby. That's followed by the particle ni, which describes a location typically. And the last word is ありますか? We've covered this in other lessons, but let's review. ありますか is the polite way of asking, is there a blah blah blah. The root form is ある, which means to exist. So altogether we have コンビニは近くにありますか? コンビニは 近くにありますか? Quite literally, it's translated as convenience store nearby, is there? Or is there a convenience store nearby? Now, time for Sachiko's secret. Most likely when you ask this question, the answer will be yes, because convenience stores are everywhere. Almost every single block. If you're smack in the middle of Tokyo, there might be 2 on each block. Don't ask me why, but my suspicion is people work long hours from 9 a.m. to maybe 9, 10 p.m. In order to accommodate the working people, you have to be open either 24 hours or at least until late at night. That's why all these convenience stores can still stay in business. I remember when I was working in Tokyo like a mad woman, I would get off work about 10 p.m. It'll be 11:30 by the time I got home. I'd be really tired because most likely I wouldn't have had dinner yet, believe it or not. The only place open was a convenience store. So I'd buy rice balls, drinks. They serve a lot of hot prepared foods as well. Like they have hot dogs or buns, kind of like steamed buns like you'd get in a Chinese restaurant. Or you can even get odeng. These are little fish cakes that they keep in hot water, and they have a little hot water case at the counter at the convenience store. And it's really yummy during the wintertime. So, if you're out and about and you've missed dinner, you have no place else to go, stop by a konbini. You can get a pretty decent meal for a decent price. Some convenience stores even have little counters and stools so that you can eat there, which is great if you're on the go. And it's also good for students. I see a lot of high school students hanging out after school. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck. 頑張ってください. Is there a convenience store nearby? コンビニは近くにありますか? コンビニは近くにありますか?
Lesson 29.
In today's lesson, we'll learn how to ask for directions when walking around the maze-like streets of Tokyo. Previously, we introduced where can I buy manga? So now that you can ask, we'll teach you how to make sense of the answers. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started right away. In Japanese, go straight is まっすぐ進む. まっすぐ進む. The first word, まっすぐ, means straight. まっすぐ, まっすぐ. This is followed by 進む, which means proceed. 進む, 進む. So altogether we have まっすぐ進む. Literally this means straight, proceed, or just go straight. Now we're going to work on turning. In Japanese, to turn is 曲がる, 曲がる, 曲がる. So to turn right, we simply put the direction before the word 曲がる. Now in Japanese, right is 右, 右, 右. So to turn to the right, we say 右に曲がる, 右に曲がる, 右に曲がる. Ni is a particle used to indicate location. So let's use that in a sentence. Turn right at the convenience store would be コンビニで右に曲がる. コンビニで右に曲がる. コンビニ is actually the abbreviation and Japanese pronunciation of the English word convenience store. Yeah, it sounds really off. But if you pronounce convenience in Japanese, it would be コンビニエンス. コンビニエンス. So they shortened コンビニエンス to simply コンビニ. コンビニ. Now the particle de is used to mean at or in. So together it's コンビニで右に曲がる, which literally means convenience store, at, right, turn. Or turn right at the convenience store. コンビニで右に曲がる. コンビニで 右に曲がる。コンビニで右に曲がる。Now let's try turning left. Left in Japanese is 左、左、左、左。So to turn left is 左に曲がる。左に曲がる。左に曲がる。The first word, 左, like we covered, is left. Ni, again, is a particle used to indicate location. Magaru means turn, so turn left is 左に曲がる. To turn left at the convenience store would be, what's that? Yeah, that's right. It's コンビニで左に曲がる。コンビニで左に曲がる。コンビニで左に曲がる。So altogether, it's コンビニで左に曲がる to mean turn left at the convenience store. Now, convenience stores are everywhere in Japan. There are just so many chains, so many franchises, and they're just so useful. They sell everything from foods, drinks, stationery, even underwear sometimes. Bizarre places. They're open 24 hours and they're located all over the place, so they're very, very convenient. Hence the name. I would say they're the equivalent of Korean delis in New York City. I remember those days. 3 a.m., walk into a Korean deli, everything is there. Same thing with convenience stores. Now, the store used as an indicator can be changed easily. For example, if you want to use the bank as a location marker, you say 銀行 to mean bank. 銀行, 銀行. So to turn left at the bank would be, yep, give it a try. 銀行で左に曲がる。銀行で左に曲がる。銀行で左に曲がる。Got that? Let's try another one. How about post office, which in Japanese is 郵便局。郵便局。郵便局。So turn right at the post office would be 郵便局で右に曲がる。郵便局で右に曲がる。郵便局で右に曲がる。郵便局で右に曲がる。To mean turn right at the post office. Now, another common phrase we use when giving directions in Japanese is the term 突き当たり, which means dead end, or where the street just ends, or where the street comes to an abrupt end. So often we'll say, turn right at the dead end. So often we'll say, turn right at the 突き当たり, or at the dead end. That in Japanese would be 突き当たり would be 突き当たりで右に曲がる。突き当たりで右に曲がる。突き当たりで右に曲がる。Now today's Sachiko's secret is about what else? Directions. Yes, the Japanese way of giving directions is a bit different from Western ways. First of all, we don't use the term blocks. Instead, we use traffic signals to count the number of blocks. So you might hear someone say, go straight until the second traffic signal. So let's cover that in Japanese so that you'll be prepared. Traffic signal in Japanese is 信号, 信号, 信号. The second traffic signal would be 二つ目の信号。二つ目の信号。二つ目の信号。二つ目 means the second. So to say, go straight until the second traffic signal would be 二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。Now the numbers used in this sentence differ from the typical number of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, and 5, which is 1 to 5 in Japanese. When giving directions, we would say the first one or the second one, which in Japanese would be 一つ目、二つ目。一つ is one. 一つ目 would be the first one. So 一つ目 is the first one. 二つ目 is the second one. 三つ目 is the third one. And 四つ目 would be the fourth one when we're counting traffic signals. Now, it's a bit confusing because not every single block has a traffic signal. So when they say traffic signal, literally count the signals, not the blocks. Very confusing. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer. So good luck. 頑張ってください. Go straight. まっすぐ進む。まっすぐ進む。Turn right. 右に曲がる。右に曲がる。右に曲がる。Turn left. 左に曲がる。左に曲がる。Turn left at the convenience store. コンビニで左に曲がる。コンビニで左に曲がる。コンビニで左に曲がる。Turn left at the bank. It's getting long, but hang in there. 銀行で左に曲がる。銀行で左に曲がる。銀行で左に曲がる。And turn right at the post office. 郵便局で右に曲がる。郵便局で右に曲がる。郵便局で右に曲がる。And the last one from Sachiko's Secret. Go straight until the second traffic signal. 二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。二つ目の信号までまっすぐ進む。
Lesson 30.
In today's lesson, we'll introduce questions related to taking pictures during your trip. We'll go over both, can I take your picture? And can you take our picture? We'll also try, can I take a picture with you? Because if you want to take a picture of someone or with someone, it's always best to ask for their permission first. Let's start with the first question. In Japanese, please take our picture is 写真を撮ってください。写真を撮ってください。Let's break it down by syllable. 写真を撮ってください。Now let's break that down by word. The first word, 写真, means photo. 写真, 写真. This is followed by を, which in Japanese is an object marking particle. Let's look at the next word, 撮って. This means take. 撮って, 撮って. So far we have 写真を撮って. Literally, this means photo take. This is followed by ください, which means please do it. So together, 写真を撮ってください is literally photo, take, please. 写真を撮ってください。写真を撮ってください。Now be sure to show them how to use your camera. Don't expect all Japanese to be gadget whizzes. I certainly am not. Now let's try the second sentence. Can we take your picture? If you're ever walking down the ancient streets of Kyoto, you may be lucky enough to see some geisha walking around in their beautiful kimonos. Those are traditional Japanese attire. You might be tempted to take a picture of these shy, soft-spoken ladies in front of an ancient-looking temple. That's when you would say, 写真を撮らせてください。写真を撮らせてください。Let's break that down by syllable. 写真を撮らせてください。Now let's hear it again. 写真を撮らせてください。The first word 写真 we just covered earlier is photo. 写真. This is followed by the object marker を. Up to here it's the same as the first sentence. The next word is 撮らせて which means let me take. 撮らせて、撮らせて. So far we have 写真を撮らせて which literally means photo, let me take. The next word is ください which is please. So altogether we have 写真を撮らせてください. Literally this means photo, let me take, please. Or can I take your picture please? Now there may also be times when you want to take a picture with someone. You'd have to use a different question for this. You would ask, can I take a picture with you? By saying, 写真を一緒に撮らせてください. Simply put, you just added 一緒に, which means together, in the previous sentence. 写真を一緒に撮らせてください. Let's break it down by syllable. 写真を一緒に撮らせてください. Now let's hear it once again. 写真を一緒に撮らせてください. The first word, 写真, means photo. This is followed by the object marker を, followed by 一緒に, which in Japanese means together. 一緒に, 一緒に. So far we have 写真を一緒に. Literally this means photo together. And the rest is the same as the previous sentence. 撮らせてください. Please let me take. So altogether we have 写真を一緒に撮らせてください. Now it's time for Sachiko's secret. You all know the cliche about Japanese people loving to take pictures. Well, I have to admit, there is a reason for this stereotype. We just love taking pictures. Everywhere we go, every occasion there is, we take pictures to preserve that moment for all of eternity. Get-togethers, parties, events, pictures of landscapes. Now, it used to be film cameras, and then it developed onto digital cameras. Nowadays, we use mainly camera phones to take the pictures, because we always carry around our cell phones anyways, right? People usually have huge folders of pictures in their cell phones. That way, the portable files are also easy to carry around and show people. I do it all the time. Okay, so to close out today's lesson, let's practice what you've just learned. I'll give you the English equivalent of the phrase, and you're responsible for shouting it out loud in Japanese. You got that? I'll give you a few seconds before I give you the answer, so good luck! 頑張ってください. Please take our picture. 写真を撮ってください. 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 Second sentence. Can we take your picture? 写真を撮らせてください。写真を撮らせてください。写真を撮らせてください。And lastly, can I take a picture with you? 写真を一緒に撮らせてください。写真を一緒に撮らせてください。写真を一緒に撮らせてください。